In 2017, 1 month after graduating from university, I found a job in the right industry in an industrial park. To facilitate work and save money, I chose to rent a place not far from the company. The host took me to see the room. At that time, this apartment was occupied by 4 people, and I was the 5th. Although crowded, it still ensured enough comfortable living space. One advantage of renting a single room in an apartment was that I only paid a small amount for the room I lived in, but enjoyed ample communal space. The first person I met was Chan. He worked as a security guard in a shopping mall. After the landlord handed over the room, I started to get to know my housemates. Chan was a friendly and cheerful person, so we quickly became friends. Then I asked Chan about the rest. I should say hello to them as well. However, Chan told me not to pay attention to them because they were not very friendly. Then, after a few greetings, I also went into my room. When I stayed for a week, the second person I saw was Kalim. He lived with his girlfriend and was not very friendly with people around. The third person in the house was Ten, a young man 3 years older than me. He was a rather aggressive looking guy, so I didn't dare to interact much. My room was in the middle. On the left was Chan's room. On the right was Kalim's room. A thin wall separated the rooms, so the sound insulation was poor. So every night I could hear Kalim's loud voice. Every time I couldn't stand it, I hit the wall with my hand to let him know. It was not until late at night that his voice ceased. One time I couldn't sleep. I went to the balcony to smoke and talk with Chan about Kalim's problem. Because Kalim lived with his girlfriend, it was understandable that Kalim was a little noisy. Talking about this, Chan expressed jealousy because Kalim was a lousy person, poor, but had a girlfriend. Despite living in the same house, the strange thing was, but more than half a month had passed, Chan had never seen Kalim's girlfriend. I feel a bit bored because my housemates lived unfriendly with each other. Every day I used to face him whenever I left the room to go to work, but strangely, I never saw his girlfriend at all. However, one time by chance, I saw his girlfriend for the first time. Strictly speaking, I could only see her back through the gap in the door. Discovered by Kalim, he suddenly slammed the door with a furious expression, and he looked at me with a fierce look as if he wanted to eat me alive. His look made me feel a little embarrassed. I immediately avoided his gaze and hurried out the door. That night, something terrible happened to me. I was lying on the phone playing when I suddenly heard Ten shouting in the living room. It seemed that there was a terrible smell outside that made him so angry. I opened the door to the room a little to see what was going on. Ten was still annoyed by the strange foul smell outside. Later, Chan also went out to meet him and asked what was wrong. Ten said that he couldn't stand the stench any longer. Chan also smelled his stench from yesterday, but he thought that maybe someone was repairing the sewers, so the whole building smelled like that. That night, because I felt the need to urinate, I got up to go to the bathroom. I intended not to turn on the lights to avoid disturbing others. Unexpectedly, I saw a girl standing motionless in the toilet. I guessed it was probably Kalim's girlfriend. When I saw the toilet was occupied, I intended to go to my room first and return later. But when I took a few steps, I felt something was wrong. I wondered why she didn't turn on the bathroom light. After that, I heard the sound of water dripping in there. I was curious to see what the girl looked like. The girl was standing in front of the mirror, looking downright strange. My eyes followed the girl's body until I saw a lot of blood flowing in large puddles when I looked down at her feet. I was stunned for a moment and guessed that something scary was happening to her. I was shocked and didn't know what to do when suddenly a voice that called my name startled me. It was Chan. I quickly pointed at the toilet and stammered to him that Kalim's girlfriend was there, her whole body covered in blood. Chan also glanced in surprise at the toilet, but he didn't see anything. After he said that, I glanced at the toilet again. It was true that there was no one inside. So how could the girl I just saw disappear so quickly? I was stunned and didn't know what to say, and Chan still purposefully went inside to see if anyone was there. I went in too, but there was no trace inside. Chan said, "Maybe because it was dark, you were looking at it wrong. Why was there anyone in here?" I got confused and looked at the place where Kalim's girlfriend was standing earlier. It couldn't be an illusion because I was mentally alert. There wasn't a drop of blood on the floor. I had to wonder if I was dazzled. When I was bewildered, Chan suddenly pushed me outside because he also wanted to go to the bathroom. I knew I was not dazzled, but I couldn't find a reasonable explanation for what just happened. After going to the bathroom, I went back to my room and thought for a while before going to sleep. But the following day, I was awakened by 10 screams. He seemed to be very angry with Kalim. I didn't know what happened, so I got dressed and went out to have a look. Outside, 10 angrily banged on the door and called Kalim several times. Even the others were there. I walked over to Chan's back and asked him what had happened. Seeing me, Chan immediately pointed to the ground and showed me the reason. Through the gap in the door, maggots crawled everywhere. Not only that, there was a liquid that looked and smelled extremely bad flowing on the ground. The maggots and the stench made me want to vomit on the spot. The stench was coming from Kalim's room. 10 banged on the door for a while. Kalim finally opened the door and asked what we were up to. 10 put his hand over his nose and angrily rushed in and pushed Kalim down. As soon as the door opened, we immediately saw Kalim's girlfriend sleeping on the bed. The strange thing was that her sleeping position was precisely the same as the one I saw a few days ago. Kalim didn't want us to invade his room, so he loudly kicked us out. 10 didn't care about his attitude. He thought Kalim was dirty and refused to dump garbage, but piled them up somewhere, causing the smelly situation. Chan was trying to search under the bed when he screamed in terror again. At that time, Kalim rushed to shield his girlfriend, the purpose of which was not for us to see. I and the others also went to Chan to see what the girl's face was like. It turns out that this Kalim guy was a pervert. He didn't have a girlfriend. It was just a sex doll. Kalim screamed and kicked everyone out for daring to invade his privacy. Then, because he couldn't find anything, 10 led us outside with a slightly mocking expression on Kalim's face. Just as I stepped closer to the wardrobe, the closed door suddenly popped open. Suddenly something fell towards me, startling me. No one would have thought that what had just fallen out of the closet was the corpse of a girl. How horrible! Because I didn't take precautions, I was knocked to the ground by the girl's heavy body. The girl's body was on top of me. Maggots, dirty water from her body splashed all over me. Her body was in the process of rotting and smelling. Her eyes were still wide open. It felt like she was staring at me. I was so scared that my soul flew away. I cried and screamed and pushed her body aside. Seeing me like this, Mr. 10 and Chan quickly pulled me up. At that time, Kalim wanted to run away but was caught by 10. Knowing that he had killed someone, we immediately called the police. Kalim killed his girlfriend when he heard that she wanted to break up. He purposely used a dummy to pretend to be his girlfriend to cover this up. After that story still haunted me, so I had to move to a new place. To this day, I still wondered, was the person I saw in the bathroom the ghost of Kalim's girlfriend?